Yo, what's going on, everyone? My name is Cody Jones, and today we're going to be doing another artist review. But before we get into this, I want to note that the final episode to my podcast has just come out, and it's available both on all streaming services like Spotify, Amazon Alexa, it's just out there, I mean, you just gotta search for shit, I guess. Because, the thing is that I tried searching to see if it's available on Anchor.com. I know it's available there. I know that for damn sure. And there are some streaming services that, pop up but don't really pop up. So, I mean, it's out there. Also, it's going to be on YouTube as well. I'll drop a link to the channel down in the description. But, anyways, let's just get into this. And today we're going to be doing an artist review for the one and only, the man himself, the icon. Y'all know who it is, Tupac Shakur. And we're already about to get started with the first album that he's ever dropped, which is called Tupacalypse Now, which came out in 1991. Now note that this was a little bit when he was working both with Digital Underground and on his own. So it's like he was bouncing back and forth between the two, including with one of his biggest songs, Brenda's Got a Baby and Trapped. Now, I'm already about to give this fucking album a 10 out of 10 because it's like one of the biggest albums that came out when he just got started. So, you know what? I'm actually thinking about giving this one an 8. A 7.5, maybe an 8. Because it's cool. There's a lot of dope songs on it, including I Don't Give a Fuck, Trapped, Crooked Ass Nigga, and one of the biggest songs, Brenda's Got a Baby, and Part-Time Mother. A lot of these songs were really huge and they were really dope to listen to. But the thing is that it really introduced people into Tupac, the person that fucking told stories, rapped with his soul. He spoke with his heart and his mind. Alright, so for the next episode, so, sorry. For the next album that we are going to be discussing is the 1993 major hit album, Strictly for My Niggas. This one, I would actually instantly give this shit a 10 out of 10 because it was one of the dopest songs, one of the dopest albums, and it had a lot of really enjoyable features, including Ice-T, Ice Cube, Deadly Threat, Digital Underground, Wicked, Tretch, Apache, and a Live Squad. And honestly, man, there is no other album much more enjoyable than this one, because this one had a lot of really dope hits, including a lot of really major blow-up songs, including Holla If You Hear Me, including Keep Your Head Up, the song Strictly for My Niggas, and one of the biggest songs to blow up as well, I Get Around, with Digital Underground. This one was referenced a lot, especially in Living Color album where Tupac actually did a guest appearance on that episode. So honestly, I'd give that one a 10 out of 10 straight up. And for the next one, this one is very particularly huge in my opinion, especially because the way that this album was made. The 1995 album, Me Against the World, another 10 out of 10. This one had a lot of really touching songs, but also a lot of really personal but still enjoyable to hear songs. And this one was recorded while he was locked up in prison. So this one is another 10 out of 10, including with one of the biggest songs, Me Against the World, So Many Tears, and one of my mom's personal favorites, Dear Mama. This one was one of the biggest albums, especially when he was just coming out of prison. So this album in particular, the 1995 Me Against the World, this one was enormous. And I'd give this one a straight 10 out of 10 as well. And now, y'all already know what album we're going to be talking about. The first double disc album that ever came out in the 90s, and one of the biggest albums that he's ever recorded when he was signed with Death Row Records. Y'all already know what this album is, man. It's All Eyes on Me. This one is another huge 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10 fucking album, man. This one was one of the fucking dopest projects that ever came out. I even have a fucking a I even have my own disc of the remastered album because there was a lot of places that were not really selling the original copy. But this album was enormous, especially with the song that was produced by Daz Dillinger, Ambitions as a Writer. But with so many songs on this, two of America's Most Wanted, Life Goes On, Only God Can Judge Me, and one of the hugest songs to ever blow up on the West Coast, California Love, the original and the remix with him, Dr. Dre, and Zapp and Rogers' very own Roger Troutman. And honestly, man, there are so many fucking songs on this. This shit is like a fucking 27 song album. Well, I mean, maybe a 28 if you would count the original California Love a part of it. But with All Eyes on Me, this album was enormous. Everyone was talking about this shit. And this one blew up along with Notorious B.I.G.'s album, uh, Ready to Die. This one was enormous. And so was Snoop Dogg's album, Doggy Style. Those were like three of the biggest albums that ever blew up in America. With those three albums really like popping up in the charts and shit. And now, sadly, because he passed away in 1996 after getting shot four times, because if you think about it, he was shot 5 times in 1995 and shot 4 times and killed that day. He tragically passed away, but because of the many stories that people would say how he would be staying in the studio for long periods of time, continuously writing, recording, have a little smoke, have a little drink, writing. So many projects came out even long after his passing, including with the 1997 album, Are You Still Down? Remember Me. In my opinion, I'd give this one a 6 out of 10 because it was decent, a few good songs, including with the song Hellraiser, Open Fire, Are You Still Down, and I Wonder If Heaven Got a Ghetto. And one of my also personal favorite, Fake Ass Bitches. This one was a pretty good song, but the album wasn't really all that great. And then with the 2001 another double disc album, Until the End of Time, this one was another huge project, which was a 29 song album. This one was pretty decent as well. I'd give this one a 7 out of 10 because there were some songs that I would say are skippable, not really all that big, but a lot of them were still enjoyable to hear, including with one of the biggest songs, Ballad of a Dead Soldier and Little Homies. And another one which happened to be Letter to My Unborn Child, which was a very good, another sentimental storytelling song. But all in all, this album was pretty decent to hear at the time. And then the 2002 album dropped, and people were still surprised that even more albums are still continuously coming out, including with this one, Better Days. This one was another pretty decent one, a 5.5 out of 10. I mean, there were some good songs, but there were some other ones that really weren't all that enjoyable. But one of the biggest songs would be Still Ballin', When We Ride on Our Enemies, Mama's Just a Little Girl, uh, Better Days, and Fame, and They Don't Give a Fuck About Us. Those were one of the biggest songs that really caught my eyes with this one. And then the 2003 movie came out, The Tupac Resurrection. This one was very interesting to watch, especially because it really told the story of who Tupac is. It was like a very interesting and very like sentimental like documentary of who Tupac Amaru Shakur was, including with a lot of huge songs like Ghost, Running, Dying to Live featuring Notorious B.I.G., and one of my other personal favorites, Staring Through My Review, which sadly isn't available on Spotify. I mean, Spotify, what the fuck you doing, man? Bring that shit back. You know, it's like one of the biggest songs on this album. And then the 2004 album came out, Loyal to the Game. This one in particular was enormous because it was a Aftermath and Eminem produced album, including with a lot of features with him, including Soldier Like Me, Black Cotton, and a lot of other like enjoyable features such as 50 Cent, G Unit, Obi Trice, and and goddamn, Ronald Isley of the Isley Brothers. This one was, I would say, 8.5. I mean, it was a good album. It was enjoyable. A little bit better than his most recent ones. But Loyal to the Game is one of the best albums that came out yet. And then with the final album, Pac's Life, which came out in 2006, including with a lot of really huge features such as Swizz Beatz, Crazy Bone, T.I., Ashanti, Keisha Cole, J-Rock, Young Buck, Chamillionaire, Nipsey Hussle, and Ludacris. So honestly, Pac's Life was a very interesting, touch and go kind of album. I'd give this one another 8 out of 10. This album was really enjoyable to hear from beginning to end. But other than that, I mean, I think there's no doubt about it that Pac was one of the greatest rappers, probably one of the only rappers that will ever really be seen as like a 10 out of 10 icon. And honestly, there was no other rapper that I think can ever take his throne as one of the dopest and one of the best to ever really do it. Especially since the fact that he was more than just a rapper. He was a poet, he was an actor, and he was a revolutionary born out of prison from a Black Panther mother. And for those of you who don't know, Black Panthers was a political black movement back in the 60s and 70s. So honestly, man, Pac was one of the greatest and still one of the greatest to this day. But other than that, that was my artist review, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, quick little sponsor. A quick little sponsor before we end this video would be to my guy, the Joker, who is dropping a lot of merchandise, a lot of really dope shirts, sweaters, hats, beanies, jackets, CDs, signed CDs, a lot of really dope stuff to sponsor his most recent album, Coming Home. Be sure to check that shit out on MakeJuggalosGreat.com. Alright, it's all there. It's available right now. Get your stuff, get your merchandise now before you can. Get the shit while it's still available and while it's still there, because I don't know how long these merchandise is going to be available, but honestly, I guarantee that I'm about to get my hands on some merchandise. But on that, again, it's MakeJuggalosGreatAgain.com. Check that shit out down below. I'll drop a link to the description. I'll drop a link in the description down below. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm out. Peace. Also, before I end this video, I completely almost forgot to fucking mention that Tupac did have other musics with other people, and he also went under a different name. And I completely almost forgot, like when I was editing one of my other videos, I was looking for some screenshots to add to this current video of like each album cover that Pac was doing, and I completely forgot about all the other albums that wasn't just Pac. Like there were also albums with Tupac and the Outlaws, and there was also Thug Life, the group, and there was also his very, very, very last album that went by a whole different rap name under Machiavelli. And I completely almost forgot about this shit, so I'm already about to start like getting to these other albums as well before I officially end this video. And we're going to be going with the 1994 Thug Life Volume 1. This one was, I would say, this album was pretty good. It was enjoyable, but there were a lot of songs that I did enjoy, but there were also some that I didn't really care for all that much. But there were a bunch of big songs like Bury Me a G, Pour Out a Little Liquor, How Long Will They Mourn Me, and the song Cradle to the Grave, which was like one of the, like it was a very enjoyable song, but there were some songs to this album that was added to one of his movies called Above the Rim, and one of those songs would be Pour Out a Little Liquor, and that song was in one of the scenes. So for the album Thug Life Volume 1, I'd give this one an 8.5, because it was cool. I liked it. There was a lot of good songs, and I think this one was enjoyable to listen to. And now to the 1996 album, where he went under the name of Machiavelli. This one was enormous, especially again a little bit before he was shot and killed, with the album called The Don Illuminati, The 7-Day Theory. And this album, it really came to a very dramatic start with the song called Bomb First, My Second Reply. This one was a huge, like, West Coast shit on the East Coast type album, including with him like really going at a bunch of other people, with like Biggie, with Dre, with like just a whole lot of people. There were so many amazing songs on this album, and I'm gonna give this one another 10 out of 10, because this album was one of the dopest albums that he's released, even when he wasn't going under the name of Tupac. And now for the final album, the 1999 album, Still I Rise, with him and Outlaws. This one, I don't really remember if I even liked it all that much, despite the fact that it's a 15-song album. I mean, there were some that were decent, but I feel like this album was a bit of a flop for me. There was only like maybe there was probably like 5, 6 songs on this album that I did like. So this one would be more of a 4.5. I mean, because again, this album was cool and all, but it didn't really blow up like the album Thug Life that he did. So I'm just gonna end this video like that because again, when I was editing this, I completely forgot about these albums. But again, you guys know the deal. Subscribe if you haven't, like, comment, and share this video. Hit the bell notification, and blah blah blah, all that other stuff that I just mentioned. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace.